Hello, everyone. How are you all doing out there? Oh, we got 8 people watching according to my little number thing right up here, according to StreamYard. And let's go say hi to people and see what we got here. Oh, and don't forget, everyone, looking is fine, but please, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, say hi. To make comments, you got to be subscribed for 5 minutes because that's the way we keep the trolls out. All right, so comments here. First one in was Walt Rogers. Hey, Walt. Then Crew 1351 came in second. Job of the Prepper said fourth because I replied back, so he was counting me. Cool. And everyone else is just there chatting back and forth between each other. Oh, and of course, the platform had to block some people from auto playing when I went live, and so they had to restart. Yeah, I've had that where I've been on other people's lives where it won't start automatically, and you got it, and it won't start just by clicking it to make it go. You have to refresh the page because the platform gets stupid sometimes. All righty, so that's where we're at here. Everybody here is still good. Hang on a minute. Froze for a second there. All right, so with this here, oh, and I see that 4 people decided to dip out because they must have been trolls. That's amazing how many trolls out there see something go live. Oh, I'm going to see if I can get in there and screw around with them. And then they realize they got to subscribe to make a rude comment. Of course, as soon as they subscribe, then there's a record of who they are, and they can be tracked down. All right, so let's go ahead and shift me up there and bring the document over. There we go. All right, so now that I've been here, I've been jumping forward to the end of chapter 11 and the beginning of chapter 12, working on it because that's not completely written up there. So I've been working on that. That's why I keep highlighting this here, so I know what everything here is. And get rid of that. There we go. All right, so we're going to pick up here. So for those that haven't been up to date on what's going on here, they had returned the night before or the day before on the 5th. They'd gone down to Flagstaff with some of the 1st Marine Logistics group, and some of the trucks they've had and some of the truck drivers they've rescued went down and did some massive buying with Marine Escort to get more supplies they needed from places that were still selling stuff, particularly some companies that realized, hey, there's not going to be much need for us. If someone wants to buy our stuff, we need to sell it now, get the money, and use the money elsewhere. But so I picked up a lot of stuff from roofing companies and window companies, and getting stuff to work on the new barracks they've been adding to the Camp Resurrection. All right, so let's go here. So it's now, this is the morning, Friday morning, November 6th. And yeah, so let's get at it here. The evening before, while Michael was in the shower, Kimberly and Kimmy moved the mattress. Oh, that's the thing. They picked up the girl Kimmy. Her grandparents were her guardians because her parents had died 5 years before in a car accident. Her name is also Kimberly, spelled differently, but she goes by Kimmy. It's not to get everybody confused. And the Clarks have agreed to be her foster parents till it's safe for her to go back to Flagstaff to be with her grandparents, because there's a lot of nasty, bad stuff going on down there. And so, yeah, so you want to find out what happened there, watch yesterday's. All right, so here we go. Kimberly and Kimmy moved the mattress from the other bedroom into Michael's room and put it and Michael's mattress on the side by side on the floor against the frame of Michael's bed. Michael was next to his bed frame with Kimberly next to him and Kimmy on the other side of Kimberly. On the other mattress, hang on, you put something out of there. When they went to sleep, SL. Aha. When the alarm went off in the morning, Kimmy was between them, sort of. She was between, on top of, and sideways and all over. Michael and Kimberly looked at each other with expressions of humor. Kimmy was in the midst of a dream and talking to someone named Brian. Kimberly let slip a snort of a chuckle. She's drooling on me, Michael said, and Kimberly broke out laughing very loudly and startled Kimmy. Huh? What's going on? You're drooling on Michael while talking to Brian in your sleep. Kimmy sprang into the air like a cat whose tail was just stepped on. Yeah. Michael and Kimberly started the run with Peyton, Susan, Monica, and Kimmy. Snow was beginning to fall lightly. In some areas, it was melting, while in other areas, it slowly began to stay and build up. When they passed the largest gym, that's right, they've been building gyms down at the Camp Resurrection. Susan, Monica, Kimmy joined them in the gym to work out on the stationary equipment. Inside, I'll explain it a little bit better here. The gym. Benjamin and Janet had lit the wood-burning stove that heated the gym. The heat-powered fans on it and its flue pipe were spinning and starting to move air around. Benjamin and Janet were already working out. They had driven one of the 6-seat Polaris UTVs over for their hour-long workout while the others were running to it. When the SOG showed up, it's running to it. Hang on, I need to put it. Okay, so an hour later, when the SOG showed up, they were dusted with flakes of snow. Benjamin, Janet, Susan, Monica, and Kimmy gathered their things and put on warm coats to drive back to the cabin and start the morning chores. With all of the carpenters and other tradesmen working on the new base, Benjamin and Janet decided to take advantage of the overlapping downtimes between buildings, B-U-I-L, between buildings, and hire crews to build a few structures at the cabin. The company the main STRUCT main construction company decided to put on a full-time crew on the Clark's project and shuffle free workers over there to help speed it along. First was a barn for the tractors and travel trailers on the backside of the Clark's cabin. It was having the last of the slab side pieces installed when it started snowing in earnest. Benjamin, Janet, Susan, and Monica finished moving the trailers inside and hooking them up to the new weatherproof utility hookups in the barn. The barn was large enough that they could put more than twice the number of trailers, tractors, and their attachments in the barn. An extended walkway cover was built from the back door hang on, of the cabin. To the barn. See, things like that, I know I meant that it was the back door of the cabin. And I need to put it in just to make sure everyone else understands. So they're going, back door of what? So back door of the cabin to the barn. And from the breezeway to the barn. This gave them 2 covered access doors to the barn. A second garage was being built next to the existing garage. The cargo containers have been moved using the Bobcat T777 track loaders to pick them up, one at each end. And hang on, cargo containers that had been moved, loaders, period. They used them to pick up. Hang on, let me move this around. To pick up the containers with one at each end. Out of the way until the till the new the garage was finished. FINIS. There we go. Till the new garage was finished. The new garage would have 6 triple deep stalls, a second floor cover, and second cover and center floor stalls. It was flipped so that the back of it hang on here, it was facing facing towards the driveway, and the doors on the other side, and the doors were on the other side. It was a log cabin. It was a log cabin design with isosceles trapezoid shaped logs, basically 16-inch square logs with the top of one side trimmed back 1 inch. This side would be on the outside to the top to shed water and snow away from the joint. The 16-inch thick would offer bolt resistant and insulation properties. The only windows were on the second floor, and there was a 10-foot overhang, the full width of the side with the roll. Okay, getting a little confused here. Let me get it here. There was a 10-foot overhang, the full length of the side with the roll-up doors. That was of the garage. I'm going to change this. GAR of the garage. Sorry. On the side with the roll-up doors. This was to keep rain and snow away from the doors. And hang on. Coming inside when the doors were open. There we go. There was an enclosed closed PA pathway connector between both garages. Okay, there we go. After the new garage was finished, the construction crew would start on a real hay barn with doors to each pasture. Then, after they finished the Clark's hay barn, they would build one build one by Jacob Lake. Then one on the property that Jake would be running cattle on. Hang on, and the new all right, and then comma, then one on the new 640 acre property that Jake would be running cattle on. After that, they would work with the crews building and crews building at the main base complex. At the main base, a new larger chow hall was roughed in and mostly weather tight. Hang on, I want to make sure I get this right here. Okay, I need to do this. Delete. There we go. Currently, CURR. Currently, at the main base, the new larger chow hall was roughed in and mostly weather tight. When it was completed, the old chow hall would be turned into the Quartermaster's Marine Corps Exchange, or MCX for short. Also under construction were two NCO that were an individual bedroom, but with shared individual shower and head areas. These were roughed in exteriors that would keep the snow out while individual rooms were framed out, and the common shower and head area were plumbed. Today, the logistics combat element and 36 of the former 4th Forcon with Chuck Brighton, Flynn O'Flannery with them. Comma. Hang on, I got to redo this. I just wrote this up quick, so I really haven't done it. And okay, our two visitors have left. They were sitting there for quite a while. All right. Shoot. Okay, I need to rework this a little bit here. Put that here. There we go. I need to move this from here up in front. And that makes today. Okay. All right, there. Trying to make this more thing. Okay, hang on. I put this up here. Switch it around again. Okay, I'm reworking this to make it work here, guys. So bear with me here. That's part of the writing process. Sometimes you write something out, and then when you come back, you read and you start reading out loud. It's like, oh crap, I got to change this around and make it flow more correctly. All the points were in there, but it was jumbled up and didn't make sense. But that's just the way sometimes people write. Fourth, three, four. Okay, along with. Uh, all right, okay, we're on this trip. Their shopping list for today was window store, silicone caulking, electrical wire, blah, 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 blah. Any materials they could find. And CLU included this time were both of the Cougars and two of the LAV 25s plus 24 Marines with suppressed M4s for security. Control C. General Marquez sent the group on the request of the construction crews building the various structures. It was the same personnel that went the day before, plus an extra few. Some of the PJs, Major Eric Holmes, Tech Lewis Harris, and Tech Trish Swain, had decided to go along just in case they were needed. Fortunately, they weren't needed by the Marines. A city police cruiser hang on. A city cruising by Code 3, passing by their location at, move this up here. Okay. A city police cruiser passing by their location at Home Depot. Again, I need to change this around. Okay, I gotta change this around, make it so. They were at Home Depot when a city police cruiser passed by code 3. There we go. Suddenly, it slammed on its brakes and pulled into the parking lot and drove up to them, turning off its siren as soon as it was in the parking lot. An officer jumped out and asked if Captain Jackson was with him. Lieutenant Heather Craig responded that Kimberley was not with them today, but maybe she could assist them. The officer replied that the gangs had decided to join forces and were holed up in one of the El Tigre warehouses, and there were wounded officers and deputies trapped under fire. There we go. Now it sounds better, folks. Just taking that and just tweaking it around, and it sounds much better. That's another reason why I like going through this with you. Someone came in and left really quick. That's why I like going over this, and someone else is still here. I like going over this, reading this with you guys. And Howie's in the house. Yeah. Reading it to you guys, because as I read it aloud, my mind works differently than just reading it to myself. Reading it to myself, my mind does its thing of, putting things together in an order that makes sense. But when I say it out loud, my tongue can't do that. So it has to match up so my tongue works right with it, so it makes sense to everybody else. All right. So here we go. Staff Sergeant Rankin, she called out, load your cougar up. We're helping wounded and trapped law enforcement out of a jam. Corporal Jennings. Hang on here. That's a lowercase. Comma. Corporal Jennings, load your Lav 25 up too. She turned when she heard the sound of an LATV ambulance. The PJs were in. When she heard the PJs were in, comma, start up. She smiled and thought things are going to get very real. And just to remind everybody still here listening, well, we got 5 in here. For those that are listening, the PJs, that's the Air Force PJs, the pararescue Tier 1 operators. Yeah. Things are going to get very real. As they were pulling up to the El Tigre warehouse, they saw 3 patrol units being fired on, with 2 officers and a deputy hiding behind them, and 1 lying prone in front of 1 unit. The 2 officers looked wounded. Hang on here. Behind the PAT units looked wounded. There was a gang, singular, not plural. There was a gang member shooting from an upstairs window at them. Staff Sergeant Rankin, Heather Craig said on the radio, take the window sniper out. A second later, three explosions ripped apart the area of the warehouse where the sniper, the gang sniper was at. The cougar pulled between the warehouse and the officer lying prone in front of Hang on, got to straighten out the garbage here. in front of the one PAT patrol unit. And 6 Marines exited and began laying down suppression fire. The LATV, the PJs were in, pulled up in between the officer lying prone and the Cougar. The PJs hopped out, and 2 of them began treating the wounded officers, while the other made their way to the 2 wounded officers. Corporal Jennings stopped his LATV on the other side of the parking lot, so he had a line of fire on the west side of the warehouse. Lieutenant Heather Craig pulled her Humvee up by the command vehicles plural, for the sheriff's department, got out. Sheriff, she said as she walked up, what do you need us to do? Level it, he half said, half asked. Done, she smiled. Quickly held a finger to wait. He quickly held a finger up, held up a finger for her to wait and keyed his radio. Heads up, the Marines are going to level the warehouse. Then he nodded to her. Bring it down, Heather ordered over the radio. Immediately, the Cougars Mark 19 began thumping out 40 millimeter grenades at 6 a second, and the LAV 25's GAU-12 equalizer 25 millimeter 5-barrel Gatling gun roared to life, firing HEIT rounds at 60 rounds per second. After 3 seconds, rounds from both hit a pile of 20 and 30-pound propane tanks. The resulting explosion knocked anyone still alive inside unconscious and ignited fires throughout the building. And lifted sections, SECT, sections of the roof. Look, where am I at? Several feet. They dropped. Rafter choice. There we go. Yeah. Before they drop back on the rafter choice. Okay, hang on. The resultant explosions knocked anyone still alive inside unconscious. Hang on, I'll make this simpler here. Take out an extra N. Unconscious, ignited fires throughout the building and lifted sections of the roof up several feet before they dropped back on the rafter joist. For the next 30 minutes, propane tanks kept cooking off with more explosions and fire flare-ups. The PJs evacuated the injured to where the ambulance were waiting. 10 minutes after the last propane tank explosion, the fire department moved close enough to put water on the fire and start cooling the building off. As the fire department moved in, Heather had the Marines load up. Heather walked over to the sheriff and police chief and held out her hand. Gentlemen, I believe this may be the last trip we'll be making into Flagstaff. Colonel Houston wanted me to convey his suggestion to get some equipment from Camp Novato to, as he put it, remove violent gangs and criminal-minded groups. We'll do that, Sheriff Goodrich said, as several flashes could be seen in the distance. Several seconds later, sounds of power transformers exploding started reaching them. The power grid for Flagstaff just collapsed and went dark for decades. All right. And Moon over Miami's here. Hey, how's it going, Moon? All right. Late afternoon. It was late afternoon when the supply run returned with full trailers and seriously worried Marines. They all knew what the power outage meant for them getting more supplies and what it meant for their own power future. Word spread fast through the camp, and the stories got bigger and wilder. General Marquis called for all personnel, including construction crews, to meet in the new larger chow hall a half an hour before dinner for an information briefing. He asked Michael to explain what he and Kimberley knew and what they expected and where they stood. So I got to change this to stood from stand. Where they stood in relationship to those expectations. In their briefing, they explained what they expected the worst case scenario to be with an excess of 80% death rate. Hang on, let me see. Hang on, and comma. Okay, with an 80%, an excess of 80% death rate, reaching possibly into the low 90s for the COUNT for the country. They stated that in some areas of the country that that was all ready reached, and even to the point of 100% deaths, while other areas the decline was progressing much slower. Areas such as while in areas that it was much slower, such as where they are, but they still expected to get. Let's see here. Above 60% for those that didn't prepare and get supplies of food. Okay, and didn't get supplies of food. Let me check something here. Okay. Oh yeah, 60% for those that didn't prepare and get get okay. That didn't prepare and get supplies of food for at least 6 months. Their biggest surprise so far had been that Glen Canyon Dam had survived and was still producing electricity. With Cedar City and Flagstaff now without power, they didn't know how that was affecting the dam's generator. So they, hang on here, generators, and as such, SUCH, they had no way of knowing how much longer they would be working. Bob Miller stood up and stated that he knew what was happening at the dam. He said that the feed to both cities was cut because of short circuits when repairs were made and not checked before reestablishing the connection to the power grid. So to save the generators, they cut the feed. He added that blown transformers witnessed in both cities were symptoms of that problem. The employees at the dam plant were shutting down generators that were not needed to produce the amount of power that was currently being needed. This will give them the ability to keep producing power when a single generator fails. He also suggests they find a way to pay the workers for what they are doing to keep the power on. General Marquis asked Bob to set up a meeting with them. All right. We are at here. Okay. And let me get some water here. All right. Hang on here. The DIs. Okay, the DIs were running the SOG through evening PT in the large gym, and Kimberly, Michael, and the Chapmans were sparring with the Wild, and were sparring, and the Wilds were coaching them. Add to dictionary. Coaching them. Hang on, I gotta correct something here. Got to fix something here. All right, time to pull names up, folks. So we're going to pull up names. I get the people I want to use here. Come on, let's go. There it goes. Bringing it up. Got to go back up here. Tiger. I want SOGs, not the that. Okay. Transfers. Polson's. Where did I put it at? There we go. Here's the names I'm looking for. Come on, Control C. And bring this one here back up. And so it's Brian. Control C. Okay, so Kimberly was working with Brian Wild, and Su Ying Wild was with Michael in basic moves, working on his form and speed, not power. Suddenly, the gym erupted with a pulsing beat of a rock and roll anthem that reached across generations. Queen's "We Will Rock You" echoed and shook everybody's body. In the middle of the open mat area, Tuesday and Thursday Wild with Sabrina Taylor. Hang on a minute. I got to check something out here. I think I got a boo-boo on the names here. Sabrina. Going through the different groups here. No, it is right. I did include her first name in there. All right. So, Tuesday and Thursday Wild with Sabrina Taylor Jensen, Cassie Ryback, Tara Jordan, Chloe Reed, Tamara Moorhead, and Cora Spencer were in the forward-leaning rest position, doing anything but resting. They were doing one of the rhythm push-up dance challenges that had been the rage months ago on social media. They were moving forward, backwards, sideways, in timed movements to the beat of the music. Others started to join in. Some just as close as they were to each other, others further away as they tried to learn the movements by of their eyes. The officers and DIs looked on impressed and with admiration with Kimberly, who had been studying the pattern, suddenly walked towards them and dropped down in front of them and mirrored their movements. The music transitioned from "We Will Rock You" to "Another One Bites the Dust" without missing a beat. After a few seconds, Kimberly shouted, "Come on and join in." Michael joined in, then Staff Sergeant Lieutenant Cole and Soothing Wild. About 10 seconds, Brian Wild, followed by Lieutenant Linda Chapman. A few reps later, Mark Chapman and a slightly grumbling Staff Sergeant Drake Umber. First Sergeant Gwen Judge shook her head no slightly when Kimberly looked at her. At the end of the song, Kimberly called the original 8 to her and told the rest to head back and shower. She told the 8 she wanted them to work with the DIs to get them up to speed on the routine. And if they had other routines, they were to teach the DIs first so they could lead the SOG in the new routines. They happily agreed. Then they asked for song suggestions. Hang on a minute here. So that should just drop down a little bit, unless okay, let me do it this way. Delete. There we go. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to have a big empty page there. So I'll just crunch it together. All right. So we took an hour to finally get out of chapter 10 and into chapter 11. That took a lot more rewrite. That took several of them just dropped out. So, oh well. That took a bit longer with all that extra rewrites and trying to reorganize paragraphs. But that's what I'm doing this for, is to get these books ready to be published, hopefully by summer. Chapter 11, New Trouble, November 8th, 2037, morning. After 2 nights of sleeping on the floor in Michael's and Kimberly's room and waking up on top of him, Kimberly spent the night in her own room. When they were ready to start the run, Kimmy said she wanted to ride with Janet and Benjamin and run on the treadmill for several short runs and work out in between the runs. She said she was getting leg cramps and wanted to take it easy for a couple days. Yeah, the first week or two are tough if you haven't been running for a while, Kimberly said sympathetically. So the 5 went running while Kimmy and the Clarks drove everyone's warm jackets for coming back. Drove with everyone's warm jackets. Okay, this is not making sense here. Okay, now I know why I explained it. Okay, this takes longer because the last part of it. So the 5 went on their normal run, comma, while Kimmy and the Kimmy rode with the Clarks to the gym with everyone's warm I think to warm out because jackets for coming back in one of the. I'm going to tell you. I'm just going to leave that part out of it because that's going to be obvious. In one of the 6-seat Ranger Crew XP North Star editions with the tracks. With the tracks installed on it. The night before, they had received word that a group of Heaven's Devils had set up camp in Milford, Utah, and another group was about an hour behind in Garrison, Utah. The first group was about 3 hours away. Both groups had stopped about a half an hour before it got dark. As such, they figured that either group wouldn't start until they had good daylight. Still, teams went out to toss rocks and small boulders onto the road, so if it snowed, they would be covered by a layer of snow and not stand out as freshly fallen or rolled onto the highway. Hang on, I need to change that. There. So if it snowed, they would be covered by a layer of snow and not stand out as freshly fallen on the highway. As it turned out, it did snow during the night. Hang on, I need to fix this up here. There was about a half inch of snow, so they wouldn't be able to send them on different roads. They'd have to set up 2 ambush sites and use the cuts for the second group. They set up the first ambush site as normal, but had a cougar in the bushes. The 2 LAV 25s, 528, again. Yeah. You know, it's kind of hard. I don't like using the full thing on it, but if I don't, then it may, it doesn't sound, I mean, it doesn't fit with the facts. So, yeah. All right. So the 2 LAV 25s air defense units and 3 LATVs with the M1278 heavy gun carriers with M134s. And LATV's M12 8700 gun carriers with objective gunner protections kit. M250 cals were placed in dense brush where they would not be seen as the convoys drove by. They, along with a dozen of the SUVs and crew cab pickups, were packed with Marines and militia staying warm until it was time for them to deploy to their designated positions. At 11 o'clock, the spotter team that was on the bluff outside of Colorado City, where Highway 89 crossed into Utah, reported the makeup of the first group as 60 motorcycles with 40 passengers, 15 RVs pulling travel trailers, 4 of which had automated safety hitch system type setups with fifth wheel travel trailers on them. 9 assorted store brand trucks and trailers, 11 generic semis with white trailers, 2 fuel tankers with 26-foot bob trailers, 1,500-gallon, no, 6 1,500-gallon liquid propane tankers, 4 3,500-gallon propane delivery trucks, 1,500, 3,500, so 3,000. Okay, I just looking at the numbers. So basically, I researched all this. And these are how they go, but yeah, it seems strange that the local delivery trucks are bigger than the storage ones. So I'm gonna, just doesn't seem right. So yeah, there we go. Switch that around, make it look more correct. Yeah, 6 3,500-gallon propane tankers, liquid propane gas tankers filled with propane, and 4 1,500-gallon delivery propane delivery trucks, 8 26-foot U-Haul trucks, 2 F550s with 40-foot tilt bed with each with a 40-foot loaded with motorcycles, 7 crew cab pickups with driver and 3 passengers, 13 SUVs with driver and 3 passengers, 60 motorcycles with 50 passengers. The semi trucks and the U-Haul trucks only had 1 driver in each of them. In each of them, comma, for a total of about 375 gang members, depending on how many were in the RVs. They had about an hour before the Heavens Devils first group would arrive. When the Heavens Devils finally arrived, it was almost noon. The lead motorcycles were having a hard time trying to stay upright. The snow had covered the small golf ball sized rocks, and the riders couldn't see them covered with even a quarter-inch of snow with the glare of the midday sun. Many of them nearly went down when the front wheel slipped on a rock and went sideways. A few did go down, and more often than not, the passenger was hurt. Mostly it was minor injuries, but there were a couple that had to be helped back to one of the RVs, and one of the uninjured passengers stayed with them. They made it another 75 feet when the 2 motorcycles at the back of the lead group went down right in front of the first RV. Neither driver or passenger got up. Then the next 2 went down with neither getting up. And then the next 2, and the next 2. Then in the middle of the lead element, Motorcycle started going down with the driver and passenger not getting up. Then the front of the element started going down with driver and passenger not getting up. The driver of the first RV had stopped because all the motorcycles slipping thus far and put it in park like he'd done before. As more of the motorcycles fell, he finally spotted red on the snow and hollered to those in the main area of the RV that something was wrong, and then he slumped in his seat. 12, whispered Phoenix. 9, Under Siege whispered back. 8, Sure Shot hissed and took another shot. At the back of the convoy, number 3, Tamara Jefferson, Creedmoor, Lisa Robinson, Heater, Eugene Heaton, and Adair, Donnie Ader, were doing the same thing. Number 3 and Creedmoor started with the front 4 motorcycles by shooting their tires shooting their tires. I know what I wanted to say here, but it's not sounding right, so I got to figure this out. Does that make sense? No, let's try this. We're doing the same thing. Started shooting the front. Started with the front 4 motorcycles by shooting their front tires where they touched the pavement, making them slip and fall over. As all the motorcycles stopped for the falling motorcycles, Kimberly started taking heads at the back of the convoy. She had put on ice cleats on her boots to maintain her footing, and now she was able to move so much faster between the 2 rows of motorcycles than she did before. Just as she passed the 3/4 inch mark, no, she was just past the 3/4 inch mark when a biker several motorcycles ahead got off and turned to look back. She was too far away to get him before he drew his pistol, and she knew those between them would soon look back to see what he was looking at. Suddenly, 2 arrows punctured his helmet, and he dropped like his strings were cut. Even though their rifles were suppressed, you could hear the sonic crack of Heaters and Adair's 30-06 subsonic rounds, of supersonic rounds, as they opened up on the ones directly in front of the biker that Michael shot with arrows. However, as they did that, Michael went full auto with the bow, shooting 3 arrows a second. 2 seconds later, all the motorcycle riders were down. Kimberly, Michael, number 3, Creedmoor started checking bodies of the ones Kimberly didn't behead to see if by some miracle they'd survived. Meanwhile, up the line, the 7 crew cab pickups and 13 SUVs were being swarmed by the SOG and their DIs, while the semi-trucks were swarmed by regular recruits and their DIs and the logistic combat element. The RVs were taken by the militia and trainees. The last 13 of the RVs only had a driver in them and were brand new, stolen that morning, probably near Cedar City. The second RV had the injured motorcycle passengers, with the one giving them aid and the driver. The first RV in line had several male and females inside, and like before, the males were claiming that the females were hostages. As Creedmoor approached one that had been shot with an arrow, she noticed that the arrow was moving a little. Kimberly, Michael got one, she called out as she made her way closer. Arrow in the neck. Crap, Michael muttered as he hurried over. Kimberly walked up and could see that the arrow had entered the back portion of the side of the neck instead of the center of the side of the instead of the center of the side of the neck. She said, "Dude, you're so lucky." A weak female voice rasped, "I'm a girl, not a dude." She took a painful breath. "Now, please, just kill me. I don't deserve to live." Not judging, but I need to know what you did to deserve to die," Kimberly asked. "I joined them." Michael stepped away a bit and radioed for the PJs. "How?" Kimberly asked. "I became Trunk's swag. I was Richie Charles's swag, but I really didn't join them. I just went along to get along. Now Juby is helping me to get my self-esteem back and earn my place in the Corps." Tiffany Martin, a.k.a. Peroxide, said. The girl's eyes snapped up, first to Tiffany, then to Kimberly. "I was Paul Gomez's swag," Heather said, a.k.a. Heather James, a.k.a. Bleach, added. Juby gave me and others a second chance." The girl's head turned slightly to Heather, then back to Kimberly. "You're Juby Chan?" "And I'm Archer the Super Scout," Michael said before Kimberly could answer. The only reason you are alive is that you leaned forward just as I released the arrow. It got you towards the back of your neck instead of the center. It seems the fates wanted you alive." "Because you never miss?" "Because I never miss." "What's your name?" Kimberly asked. "Jennifer Jules." "When are you going to kill me?" "They didn't kill us," Heather said. "Why would they kill you?" "Because I did the ceremony." "Michael, did Federal Marshal Finley ever say anything about a ceremony that Heaven's Devils do for no recruits?" "Nope, just one to become a long-standing member of the elite leadership." "Who is your man?" Heather asked. "Trunks." Sorry. Answered and pointed to one of the bodies. "Him." They watched. Yeah, he watched as they made me do the ceremony. "I got that. Was he one of the leaders or a regular member?" Heather clarified. "I don't know exactly how high up he was, sort of in the middle." "What was the ceremony? What exactly did they have you do?" Kimberly asked. "I did it to save my kid sister. They said if I didn't do it, they'd pass her around for a couple weeks and kill her." Jennifer stopped as emotions washed over her face. "And they blindfolded me, took me into a tent and had me eat some raw meat." She gagged and then swallowed hard and continued. "After I'd eaten several mouthfuls, they told me I was a cannibal like them, and if anybody ever found out, they would kill me." "That sounds like the elite leadership ceremony, but they don't threaten those who do it. To them, very few get invited to do it. Only high core members get to do it." "Are you sure it was a person they had you eat?" "Yes." She started crying. "It was my sister." The others gasped. How do you know it was your sister? Kimberly asked, balking at this new level of depravity. When they took the blindfold off, I saw her body. Did you see her face? Kimberly asked urgently. No, I saw her body with her clothes on, and with a piece of monk was piece of where a chunk of meat was cut from her leg. Then you didn't get a good look, did you? Heather stated more than asked. You just saw what looked like the lower part of her. No, yes. They took me out as soon as I saw the body. That was not your sister. They took her clothes and put a pig's leg in one of the legs of the pants, cut the pants open, and cut a chunk of meat out of the pig's leg, Heather explained. I saw them do that when I was walking around with Paul. He said that was because I didn't have any family members. They wouldn't do that to me. That and was because I was his wag. She's not dead. Probably not. They would keep you apart for a couple weeks or trade her off to another chapter, Heather explained. They do it to get you to do other things more willingly and tie you to them so you won't leave. Are you sure, Bleach? Kimberly asked. I saw it done twice. I saw it once from a ways off, Tiffany added. It didn't click what it was until now. It didn't click what it was until. Hang on, I got that in there twice. Ugh. It didn't click until now what it was. Are you sure it wasn't my sister? Jennifer asked hopefully. We'll check with Marshall Finley to make sure about the ceremony, Michael replied. Either way, if that was your sister or not, do you want an opportunity to avenge her? Yes. Then stop the I don't deserve to live crap, okay? Kimberly hissed. Okay, Juby. And unless you're addressing her on the radio, it's Captain Jackson, Michael said. And he's Captain Moore, Kimberly added. And they were both sworn in by the President of the United States, Major Douglas Cooper said as he arrived with the PJs. Captains, you're needed at the RVs. Two motorcycle passengers that were injured moved into the second one just before we kicked off our shouting day, our prisoners. But the driver and another biker are claiming they're new members. And the first RV, leadership is they are claiming they have 3 hostages. Is she going to hang on here? I got to get the other major's name. There we go. There we go. Is she going to live, Major Holmes? Michael asked. She should. What did you use for the arrow tip? This, Michael said as he handed Eric Holmes an arrow. Be careful, feeling the back of the neck. The edge of one of the broadhead's blades is partly coming through. Ah, I see it. Thanks. That might have gotten me. Major Eric Holmes looked at the arrow in his hands. So, Captain, I can't pull this out, and the tip is near the spinal cord. You're the archery expert. How would you get it out? Michael looked at Kimberly. Go ahead, and I'll catch up. Then to Eric, he said. To Eric, first sanitize 10 inches of the arrow, and then we're going to roll her. We're going to roll her onto her left side. When we do that, we must keep her head looking forward and square with her torso. So we need several of these leather jackets that are more firm than the puffy down jackets. We need to make a pillow to help support her head. We'll get the jackets, Heather said as she turned away and waved the others to help. Jennifer, Michael spoke to her. Yes. When we move you, it's important you don't try to help, okay? Okay, she answered, a little unsure. When the arrow went in, it cut some of the muscles up in your neck. If you try to help, you will tighten those muscles and may cause more damage. Then you won't be able to help your sister, so don't tighten up or try to help. All right. Man. Okay, she said again. We have the jackets, Heather said. Good, now fold them in half with the sleeves out this side. Fold the bottom up, then tuck them, then stack them about 7 inches thick. Get ready to hang on, I got to correct this. Then the sleeves. Then fold the sleeves. Hang on. Come on, there we go. Fold them from the bottom up. Then stack them about 7 inches thick and get ready to slide them under her head. Ready, Heather said once the jackets are folded and stacked. Jennifer, remember, just go limp. Let us do the work. Everyone, slow and equal. No one touch the arrow. Ready? Roll. Everyone roll Jennifer slowly, keeping her straight. Slide the jackets under her head now, Michael said. Jennifer, I'm not going to lie to you. This next part is going to hurt. I got to pull the arrow back just a little, about 1/4 of an inch, so it's not touching the bone anymore. Then I have to shift the arrow angle so I can push it out so I can remove the broadhead tip and pull it out. If I try to pull it out with the broadhead tip still on, it'll hurt 100 times more and cut up your neck muscles 10 times as bad. And it might nick an artery, so you could bleed to death, and we don't want that. Are you ready? Yes, said N-A-Q-U-I. Said in a quivering voice. Michael pulled the arrow back just a little, and Jennifer tensed up, letting out high-pitched moan. Relax your jaw and neck muscles so the arrow doesn't cut them as much. M-U-C-H. As soon as she relaxed, Michael pivoted the arrow so that the head was no longer pointed at the bone and shoved it through quickly in one fluid motion. Once the broadhead was sticking out the back of her neck, he took the broadhead off. He took the broadhead wrench and slipped it over the blades and unscrewed it from the shaft. He handed the wrench with the broadhead tip in it to Heather. Be careful with that. Then he got a target tip from his pocket and screwed it into the shaft. Sanitize that, he said. Eric poured the solution over the tip. Okay, he said when it had been on long enough. I'm going to pull it out slowly so I don't suck anything into the wound. Ready? He looked at Eric. Ready? Here we go. Michael began pulling the arrow out. As he did, Eric laid gauze with blood clot over the exit wound and then over the entrance wound as the arrow cleared it. We got it now. We're going to have to learn a bit about arrows and the wounds they make. I wouldn't have thought about that. Well, I have a boatload to learn from you as well, Michael chuckled. And then asked Jennifer, can you wiggle your fingers and toes? Yes, she said after a couple of seconds. Okay, let's see. All right, we got 4 in here. It's that time. All right, hang on here. All right. Okay, we're halfway through the allotted time. I need to go take care of something. I'll be right back in a minute or two. So just hang tight. Banners, change it to this one here. All right, so don't go away. I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Okay, just to let you know part of what's going on. Before I started the live stream, I have a pot of water on the stove, simmer, giving off steam. Oh, someone just came in, disappeared right away. Um, the humidity in the house had gotten down to 25% overnight because I didn't do anything with adding water to any of the ways I have adding humidity back into the air here for a couple days. And this morning I woke up with a nosebleed from the dryness of the air. So I have a couple of towel racks over heater vents in the house, and I get the towels all wet to get humidity into the air as they dry. Well, I put a big pot of water on the stove when it gets really bad to heat it to get the humidity up rather quickly, and it was below the halfway point after an hour and a half, so I had to add more water to it. Also, my energy drink, it sort of gives me a upset stomach if I don't eat something with it, and so I went and got myself a hot dog. Mm-hmm. All right. Yes, it was. I actually got a doctor, asked him about that, and that's the type of thing he said to do when you have it were to be jammed into the neck or the back against the bone, so you can get stuff out. Also in the leg too. If it's nailed against the leg, you need to get it out without tearing everything up. You push it through. Yeah, it's going to cut a little bit more, but not nearly as bad as trying to pull that bra. All right, let's get at this here. I have to go help Captain Jackson. We'll get the ambulance to you ASAP. He took the broadhead and wrenched back from Heather and took off after Kimberly. When Michael got to the second RV, Kimberly and Linda were inside with their guns pointed at whoever they were talking to. Kimberly was on the far side using the cabinets as partial concealment, and Linda was just inside the door, also behind some of the cabinets. Kimberly was doing the talking, and a male voice was answering back defiantly. Michael stepped up next to Linda. What do you have? One male, three females. The male has a pistol to the head of one of the females. One of the females has a Bowie knife to the throat of the other, but has the brass backstrap instead of the blade against her throat. She looks to be more afraid of the male than us. All the females appear to be under 20. I'm going to slide behind you to take a peek. As Michael moved behind her, he got to where he could peek at the four by looking under Linda's right arm in a way that made the biker in a way that the biker could not see him. Then Michael stepped back, quickly changed the tips on a couple of his arrows, and then said in a loud voice, "Captain Juby Chan, General Cora Spencer has ordered me to make a final offer for their surrender." Michael stepped up into the RV with his bow in hand and an arrow already nocked. "Proceed, Captain Archer." Mm. Kimberly said, trying to keep her voice as professional as she could. "General Cora Spencer has ordered that there are no more, quote, hostages, quote, among the gangs known as Heaven's Devils. Also, there will be only one offer to surrender. After those After that, those who do not surrender are to be eliminated with extreme prejudice. Michael raised his bow and aimed at the girl with a knife to her throat. The girl's eyes met Michael's as she raised her hands quickly to her stomach and made a cup shape, one in front of the other, to grab the arrow that she noticed. To try to grab the arrow that she noticed had a blunt tip on it. She took a quick breath at the same time and nodded with a stern expression of determination. Michael let the arrow fly with a half draw. It hit her stomach. It hit her stomach, and the hands quickly grasped around the arrow as she grunted from the impact. "Shit, he shot me!" she exclaimed as she turned towards the male and began sliding through the floor. Hang on here. I really hate the autocorrect for tenses. Like I wanted Michael had already knocked, and it changed it to Michael has already knocked. No, it's had. It's past tense. It's the past tense, not current tense. Michael had already knocked another arrow, was aiming at the girl with the knife. "I surrender," she shouted, and flicked the knife forward onto the floor between them. Then dropped to her knees as she raised her hands. "Mackenzie, I'm sorry." Michael quickly shifted his aim to the other girl, and with a half draw, and hit her in the large leather-wrapped belt buckle. She let out an oof, followed by "Oh God, no," as she started to drop to the floor. Michael knocked a target arrow, drew it back fully, and fired as soon as one of the male's eyes came clear to shoot at. He quickly knocked another target arrow and let it fly as the male's throat was clear to shoot at. The male froze for half a second, then collapsed to the floor as the pistol fell from his hand. Michael started another arrow. He let it fly as soon as he had a clear shot at the male's heart. He set his bow on the dining room table as he passed by and drew his G29 SF with the suppressor from its shoulder holster. Are you two all right?" he asked. "Yeah," Mackenzie answered, to the surprise of the girl behind her. "I'm not as fast as I thought I was. I caught it on the rebound." She touched her stomach. "Ow, I'm going to have a major bruise tomorrow." "You're alive? How?" The girl behind her asked. Not girls, the girl. Singular. And make that a capital. The girl behind her asked. Mackenzie held up the blunt arrowhead. He had half a draw. He had a half draw, and this. "You're an archer?" Kimberly asked as she stopped behind Michael. "Mackenzie Thomas, Nevada State Female Division Champion this summer." She smiled. "But still not as good as you, Kimberly." She turned her head and looked at the girl behind her. "Well, Carly, it looks like we don't have to try to take Lugnut out." "You shot me," hissed the third girl as she snarled at Michael. "Sure did. It was the best way to keep Lugnut from killing you. Or would you rather he splattered your brains all over the wall? You could have warned me somehow." "They did." Captain Juby Chan, Captain Archer, General Cora Spencer, they dropped hints, and the arrow was a blunt tip. "Oh, who's Cora Spencer?" Really, Patty, the girl that has the Juby Chan website and YouTube channel? "I take it you three have known each other for a while," Michael stated rather than asked. "Yeah, since junior high," Patty said. Captain, Linda spoke up. We'll take these 3. You're needed at the first RV. Any idea who's in the first RV? Moria is the only hostage. Susan and Helen have gone over totally. They even stabbed some boys that wouldn't play with their men. Mackenzie snarled. I'll kill them for you. What does Moria look like? Flaming red hair, Carly said and rolled her eyes. What's with the eye roll? That's her attitude. She'll fight you at the drop of a hat, drink you under the table, then screw the life out of you all in one night. How old are you, ladies? 19, the girl said together. And Moria, 18 going on, bitch, Carly said flatly. You don't like her, huh? Michael moves. Oh, we like her. It's just who she is. Moria's character was suggested to me by someone who one of my friends I've been talking about this group with. And so her and someone else put together the character of Moria for us. And basically, what I finally got out of them after I talked to them about where they got the idea for Moria, they said from the animated movie Brave, the attitude of the daughter that was, that's what they said, kind of like that, only more so, and less of a princess and more of a hard case. So that's where Moria came from. And we got a couple more came in. So whoever came in, please hang on. Wait a minute. Put that other banner back up here. There we go. So please, make a comment. Yeah, you need to subscribe to the channel, but it's free. It takes 5 minutes before you make a comment. I do that to keep the trolls out. All right. So, we like her. That's just who she is. Mackenzie chuckled. Let's go clear that RV and save the redhead, Kimberly said as she turned towards the door. Mackenzie snarled again. Like I said, if you take the others prisoners, I'll kill them for you real slow. Hang on. There we go. Real slow. When they stepped out of the RV, Bleach, Stephanie Meacham, aka Ghost, were standing there with 4 garbage bags and evil smirks on their faces. What's in the bags? Heads, they said together. Instead of a quick bang grenade, throw a head bang grenade in the RV, Bleach said, and then laughed. They'll freak out. Then yelled, that one didn't explode, followed by throw another. 2 of them have frag grenades in them, Ghost added. We have one with a smoke grenade if you want to use it in the head. Kimberly shook her head. Not a bad idea, Michael said with a grin. What? Kimberly asked in surprise. OODA loop. Oh, yeah. Hang on a second, Michael said as he went back to the RV. Back to the second RV. Did they tell you what chapter they were part of? Yeah, the Stockton chapter, Mackenzie answered. Thanks, Michael turned around and exited RV. They're with the Stockton chapter. Hang on. Something may not be right here. Let me. I gotta check my. The two people decided not to make a comment and left. So let me check on this here real quick. All right, so. Okay. Now I know to make sure of. Then with the Stockton chapter, he said as he passed by Kimberly. As he passed by Kimberly and the others and grabbed one of the bags of heads, You're really going to use those, Kimberly asked. In disbelief? Maybe, he took a thought. It depends how stubborn they get. They walked up to Larry, who was standing by the open door of the first RV. What's the situation? 5 men, 3 women that I've heard talking so far. 4 of the men are unsure what to do. The 5th is calm and claiming that if they don't shoot, we can't, Larry whispered. They don't know us, do they? Kimberly smiled. Nope. But the 3 women are odd. One sounds like she's baiting them into killing her. The other 2 are at one moment telling her she's going to get them all killed, and the next moment asking to kill her themselves, Larry said softly. She's the only hostage, according to the others. The other 2 have gone over and even killed prisoners. I knew that was going to be happening, but I was getting worried about how many were able to resist going evil, Larry acknowledged with a hint of guilt relief in his voice. Can I talk to him? Michael asked. Go for it. Michael reached the door, knocked on the cabinet that was reached in the door and knocked on the cabinet that was next to the doorway. Good afternoon. I'm Captain Michael Moore, U.S. Marine Corps 3rd Forcon Special Operation Group, the Reapers. General Cora Spencer has ordered Captain Juby Chan and myself to get you to surrender or kill everyone in this RV. Bull, we had hostages, one of the bikers yelled. No, you don't. Susan and Helen have killed for you, and the 3rd is, well, suspected of killing another girl. What? The biker shouted. Who did you kill? Some stupid valley girl named Megan Moore with the San Diego chapter. She called me an Irish bitch. I may be a bitch, but I'm Scottish, not Irish. San Diego, huh? The biker said, no harm there. Michael spoke again. So you don't have any hostages. Now, here are your 2 options. Surrender now, and we will turn you over to the local authorities, fight us or make us come in to get you, and we'll take your heads. Michael threw one of the garbage bags with several heads around the corner, with several heads around the cabinets down the RV's hallway. We're not playing around anymore. You got 30 seconds. Another biker spoke in a deep, commanding voice. You, redhead, check it out. Michael could hear Moria muttering loudly about having to be the one to check out the bag. Damn, that weighs about at least 50 pounds. Bag. Then the screaming and stumbling started. It got louder as she moved backwards towards the door. Suddenly she slid backwards into the front of the into the front side of the cabinet of the stairwell. Her left hand thrust out towards him and started signing. Shoot twice in the air when I jump out. Twice in the air. All the while she kept screaming in terror. She started a countdown from 5. When she got to 2, she started moving for the door by rolling down the stairs. She twisted and hit the pavement with her feet as Army Staff Sergeant Christine Campbell fired 2 rounds in the air with her shotgun. Shit, they shot me. Oh, no, shit, they shot her, exclaimed one of the remaining females. What's in the bag? The deep voice demanded. Ah, crap, the first biker said in disgust. Its head. Iron Mike's head is on top. Like I said, 2 options. 10 seconds. Ready to mark 19s. I give up, the first biker yelled. We don't give up, deep voice growled. You may want to play custard at Little Bighorn and die. Fine. I'm going to take my chances with the local authorities. These Marines are crazy. They're cutting off the heads of our members who don't surrender, and I'm not losing my head, the first biker declared. Michael peeked around the corner as the biker turned to walk towards him. Deep voice pulled a pistol. He's right, another biker said. We have a chance with the local authorities. With the Marines, we have none. So put your pistol down now. Time's up. Pull back, Michael stated. Michael started. Wait, we surrender. We give up, the third biker shouted. About 30 minutes after cleanup began of the first group, the spotter team reported the makeup of the second group was 39 motorcycles with 30 passengers, 4 SUVs with driver and 3 passengers, 8 Class A RVs, 7 assorted store brand trucks and trailers, 5 generic trucks with white trailers, 2 fuel tankers with bob trailers, 1 propane tanker, 2 propane delivery trucks, 3 26-foot U-Haul trucks, 1 C5500 with a 30-foot tilt bed trailer loaded with motorcycles, 4 crew cab pickups with driver and 3 passengers, 6 SUVs with driver and 3 passengers, 46 motorcycles with 3 passengers. Semi-trucks and RVs appeared to have just the driver for a total of 248 total. They also reported that the highway in their view was clear of snow. Marshal Pratt was listening in and reported that the highway on either side of Fredonia was clear as far as he could see, and added that Pipe Spring was reporting the same. Let's see here. Most of the snow on the highway had melted, even in the shady spots. By the time the next group of Heaven's Devils started up from Fredonia, this meant what blood was on the snow was gone, and there was no sign that a battle had taken place. They decided to move the 3 LATV and M12 7.8 heavy guns carriers with M34s, as well as the SUVs and crew cab pickups, up to the ambush site, and the 2 LAV 25 air defenses and the LATV heavy guns carrier with the objective gunner protection kit and M250 caliber were moved closer to the rear of the ambush site to act as a back door. As soon as the last motorcycle passed Kimberley, she slipped out again and began taking heads. The last 12 were drivers only, and she moved quickly to remove their heads. Take the front 4, and 4 arrows punched through their helmets. Kimberley grabbed one of the heads that she had removed, picked it up, and using the helmet threw it like a bowling ball between the remaining 2 columns of motorcycles, all of which had a passenger. The head stopped when it hit one of the bikes that had been shot. One of the bikers that had been shot at the front. Hang on. At the front. Hang on here. C-O-L-U. There we go. The head stopped when it hit one of the bikers that had been shot at the front of the columns. All the bikers and most of the drivers turned to see who threw the head. What happened next surprised her a little. 12 of the passengers got off, knelt, and bowed on the pavement to her. 2 of the passengers pulled at their driver to get off and bow down too. Marines, Kimberley shouted, collapse on the SUVs and crew cabs. Reapers, keep these covered. Militia, duct tape. Those bowing, stay bowing. She began as she walked forward between the 2 columns of motorcycles and those kneeling. In front of the biker saw 5 Marines. In front of them, the biker saw 5 Marines. Saw teams of 5 Marines swarm each SUV and pickup. Then 10 militia members taking a position between the rear SUV and the first motorcycles. They began pulling the hands, and they began pulling their hands, putting their hands on their heads. If you resist in any way, you'll be shot or lose your head, Kimberley chuckled evilly, or both. After we've documented and processed you, you'll be turned over to the local authorities for further processing. You are currently trespassing on a military reservation. As such, at this current state of emergency, we can execute you all. However, the local authorities have asked to maintain the appearance of law and order and have requested that survivors be brought to trial for their crimes. Her sword flashed out, and the head fell from a biker before he and his motorcycle fell over. Anyone who touches a weapon without being told what to do will lose their head. Kimberley reached the front of the motorcycles and turned around. Rule 1, when you are asked a question, you will answer immediately or you'll suffer the consequences. Rule 2, cuss and you'll suffer the consequences each and every time. Rule 3, you don't get to ask any questions. Rule 4, if you attempt to escape or hurt a Marine, you will suffer the consequences most dire. If I'm around, I will take your hands and or feet. Rule 5, there are more rules. Then in a louder voice asked, do you understand? Those kneeling, a couple more that were still seated behind their drivers, replied in a loud voice, yes, Juby-chan. Most of the other bikers muttered yes. The 3 of you that are still seated, answer with my name. Stand away from your ride. Got to stay hydrated, folks. Step away from your ride. 4 passengers dismounted and stepped away. Kimberley focused on the 4th for a second as she removed her helmet, revealing she was about 15, maybe 14. The girl slapped the driver with a light backhand to his chest and growled something at him. He removed his helmet, put his hands back on his head, and stepped away from his motorcycle. Those bowing, face me and remove your helmets and face coverings. Those that were bowing stood up, turned with the other 3 and removed their helmets, scarves, or ski masks. Bleach, peroxide, ghost, not related, nut. The 6 previously rescued teams stood up out of the sagebrush on the east side of the highway and stepped onto the shoulder. They were carrying H&K M27 SBS rifles. Those standing, if you have any weapons, put them on the pavement, then go stand on the fog line. Once 13 of them were on the line, the 6 began asking them for their names and ages and such. The 14th remained standing by her driver holding a hand halfway up. Kimberley started walking towards her. Militia, secure the rest. Snipers, any of them move before they're told to, shoot them in the pelvis. Then I'll slowly cut their heads off. Several of the bikes stiffened. Kimberley stopped in front of the girl. My name is Suzanne Curtis, and this is my lovable but sometimes stupid brother, Krillin Duncan. He was trying to get the Night Raiders to stop stealing and start helping people when they got surrounded by the Heaven's Devils. When the Night Raiders decided it was better to join than fight the Heaven's Devils, he also joined them rather than dying. When they grabbed me and some of my friends, my stepbrother claimed me as already his, and they bought it because we knew each other's names. Kimberly looked at Krillin. You're going to have to be checked out by the interrogators. I understand, Krillin said. And you too, Kimberly said to Susanna. Now stand over there. You have to be secured. Hang on. Actually, you also have to be secured until you have been cleared, Kimberly stated and pointing to the fog lines where the others were now having their hands zip tied behind their backs. No, I will not be tied up like a lamb for slaughter, a big burly biker yelled as he pulled away from those that tried to duct tape his hands and braced himself for an attack. His female passenger produced two long, thin blades and slashed out at those nearby to drive them away from her. Suddenly, a loud guttural sound came from up on the embankment to the west. There stood a black-clad, headless figure dressed in a long cloak of matching colorlessness. In his right gloved hand was a silver whip. Upon closer examination, one could tell it was made from sharpened vertebrae. With another guttural sound, the headless figure leaped from the embankment and landed flat-footed on the pavement 4 feet below. The figure's shoulders was about 5'9", making it appear that it should be 6'7" if it had a head. The cloak made it hard to tell how muscular it was, but the shoulders appeared to be very broad. It turned to face the biker, dropping the coil of the whip to the pavement. The biker froze, not sure what he was looking at. After several seconds, the headless figure turned towards the female biker with thin blades. Suddenly, its right arm whipped forward and pointed at the female biker. The silver vertebrae whip lashed out and wrapped around her neck several times. The female biker dropped her blades and grabbed at the whip with both hands. The headless figure snapped the whip back, and it sliced through the female biker's hands, severing the fingers in several places and cutting through the palms and bones of the hands. Hang on, yeah, the hands. Leaving, come on, I need to make this right. Leaving useless stumps beyond an inch beyond the wrist. The female biker didn't get a chance to scream, as when the whip slipped through her hands, it tightened around her neck. It tightened around and cutting through her neck. The action of the whip pulling back sent the severed head flying to the headless figure, who reached out and caught the Kaiser-style pickle hub spike helmet by the spike, with the female's head still held in it by the chin strap. The headless figure turned the head so it was facing it, leaned forward as if it were studying it for a few moments, and then tossed it away. It turned and started walking towards the burly biker, who backed away into the center of the other lane of the highway. Out of the corner of his eye, the burly biker spotted what he thought was a floating apparition flying towards him faster than any living person could move. Ugh. The apparition appeared to be a young woman with long, flowing red hair that contrasted with her deathly white skin, which also seemed to highlight the bright red blood dripping from her eyes, nose, and mouth. The burly biker turned to run away back down the highway. It had only taken 2 steps when a pair of ghostly claws grabbed his head and pulled him back. The apparition started screaming in a very high-pitched, oscillating manner, and everyone that could cover their ears began. Sorry, I got to reread this to clarify it here. The apparition started screaming very, and everyone that could, comma, covered their ears as they began to hurt, but nothing like the burly biker's ears. His ears ruptured as a searing heat entered his head, and the brain began to liquefy, and his eyes burst and fell out of their sockets. The apparition turned him around to face the other bikers, many of whom would have started vomiting if their mouths were not duct taped shut. Hang on. Too long here. The apparition released him, letting him fall to the pavement. Many of the Marines and militia were fighting the urge to empty their stomachs. The apparition rolled her head as she spoke in a wailing, unintelligible sound at the headless figure, who raised its hands and shrugged. The apparition got a wrathful expression on her face as she looked around. Then she spotted Michael and glided up to him and started to sign to him. After several exchanges, Michael spoke with urgency and he started to move forward. There are several SUVs with Heaven Devils national leaders in them. They have secured one at the front and ascertained that several SUV that ascertained that the SUV number 3 and 4 have national leaders that we want. That does not mean you get to relaxed with the others. The freed girls and their friends were being loaded into liberated crew cab pickups and taken for questioning. One of the bikers that had witnessed the apparition and the headless figure suddenly found the need for religion, and he murmured so intently beneath the duct tape that one of those guarding him removed the duct tape, and he quickly said he wanted to tell everything he knew about everything, including who of the national leaders. Patrick, aka Little Boss, over, and she wrote down everything he said. Hang on, I need to double check something here. That one, yeah. And go back to SOG. And hang on, I need to put something in here because I got a conflicting information here. New note. Little boss. Change that up to there. Move that up a little bit. There we go. There, that's up. And I hit save and drop back down here. I need to check something here really quick. Control F. Oh, just one. Okay. And let me change something else here. And that was Compus. COMPUS. No matches. Okay. Control F. Okay, so that's the only time her nickname is stated. Okay, so now I need to fix some things here. Okay. I wonder why I put Compass in there when there's nothing talking about her going by that name. So something's up. But I did use Little Boss, so change that out and L-I little B-O-S-S. Little Boss. Okay. Hit save. Wrote everything he said. Wrote down everything he said. Then she had two others bring him with her to where Michael and Kimberley were talking to the national leaders. Little Boss handed Kimberley the notepad with a smile. After Kimberley read it, she handed it to Michael and waved the newly religious biker over. The biker proceeded to name who was who from National and his chapter, including who was expendable. Michael pulled one of the expendable bikers forward and turned him around to face the others. Then he pulled another and stood them farther back by the fog line. He nodded to the headless figure who flipped their whip out and removed the second biker's head. The apparition had been gliding around on the highway behind them, making patterns as she went. Michael slyly signed to her to eliminate the biker facing the National. She slyly signed back earplugs, and Michael called out, "The Banshee's going to do her thing. Earplugs, everyone." The Banshee smiled evilly as she guided around some more while the Marines and militia put their earplugs in. The bikers began to get very nervous watching everyone put earplugs in. Some of them noticed that. Some of them had noticed that when they didn't do it before, when the Banshee made the god awful noise. Didn't do it when made the god awful noise before. Got to get it right. Got to read it right. All right. The Banshee finally guided up behind the expendable biker that Michael had positioned for her. She glided or floated up to the biker. pulled the tape off his mouth and put her hands on his head above his ears. She reacted as she was in discomfort, as if she empathically felt all the suffering he had caused. Then she tipped her head back and let out a guttural groan, brought her head forward and released a screaming wail twice as loud as before. The biker stiffened as his mouth opened and eyes widened in pain. He made no sound, not that anybody could hear it if he did. He began to convulse at high speed that seemed to be mechanical instead of human. At 3 seconds, his eyes exploded and blood poured from his ears, mouth and nose and mouth. A couple seconds later, his face erupted out towards the national leadership bikers, covering them in skin, blood, and bone and brain matter. Kimberly had to turn away to keep from losing her breakfast. Michael closed his eyes for a second and shuddered. The only ones not having a hard time with the sight before them were the fire teams. "We're not cleaning this up, cousin," number 3 said under her breath as she walked by Kimberly. Just then, the F-750 National Park Service fire tanker drove up, and Val Jensen and his wife Bethany got out. She unrolled the 1-inch hose. "Hit me," she called out, and Val turned on the pump. Bethany hosed down the bikers with a medium spray to wash the skin, blood, and bone and brain matter from their clothing. As the bikers are put into the back of one of the U-Haul trucks that followed Val and Bethany, they moved the fire tanker further down the road, turned it around, ready to do the final washdown as the remains of dead bikers were removed. Okay, 6:42 evening. Okay, so 6:42, and we're looking at 6:42, 5:40. $80. Okay. I need to check something here real quick to see how, so hang on while I check something on the other computer here. Okay, so today's 2, 3, 30. All right, I can do that. All right, here. Okay, let me see. So we're at 460. And this, okay, I was working here 460. So 15 pages. I ain't going to make it that far. So I'll do a little bit farther here. So I'm getting, after 2.5 hours, my voice is starting to hurt. So I'm just going to go a little bit more here, and then we will call it a day, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Let me get some more water here. But yeah, like I said, it got rather interesting, didn't it, with the Banshee and the Dullahan. After dinner, they had another teleconference meeting with Idaho. General Donaldson, Master Gunnery Sergeant Dyer, Master Sergeant Russell were on one camera. Regional DHS Regional SAC Chris Davies, DHS agent Sal Peters, DSA agent Jesse Carter were on another camera. On the third camera were both General Smythe, Captain Scott Byers, and Commander Dino Jackson, President Pro Tem of the Senate Karen Mitchell, and Vice President Matt Mitchell. Just as they were starting, a fourth window opened up with an avatar of a scary burning skull with the words above it, U.S. Federal Marshals, and at the bottom, that okay. All right, hang on. Let me check something here. This one is, no, that one's that one. That one there. Hang on, I gotta look something up here. I think I may not have put it in here. Nope, doesn't look like I moved it in here. Let me check something else here again. Yeah. However, let me check one other thing else here. Okay, this is that back there. Drop this down, open the other one up. It may be on the hard drive here. This one here. Okay. Hang on, let me make this big for a second. I have it there. Nope, it's not there. Okay, so I can't show it to you guys. It's got to be on the other computer over here on this side here. Anyway, it's a real cool graphics I created for this for the federal marshals, but it's got to be on the other computer over here, so I can't show it to you. All right. For Camp Resurrection, they were using the maintenance bay because they had all 29 military officers, First Sergeant Carlos Young, Staff Sergeant Connie Peterson as the P&A section. In addition, they had Federal Marshal Charles Finley, Bob Miller, his new position as Sheriff's Militia Commander, Harvey Judd as a Militia Sub-Commander, Jake Jefferson, Dan Robinson, Fredonia City Marshal Jimmy Pratt, Kanab Police Chief Hanson Peel, Kane County Sheriff Brian Albright, Susan Hampton, Monica Jackson, Ben and Janet Clark, Kimberly Kinney Dennis. Then off to the side, three of those that were rescued from the last group, Robert Wiz Tolman, Alice Krager, and Lucy Byer. The first 5 minutes was the report on base improvements, outlook for the winter and spring. Then they reported the power. Then they reported on the power failure for Cedar City. The former mayor and two city council members trying to deceive the people, and that the mayor, when exposed, told that Juby Chan was coming for him. He killed the two council members and then himself. Then they added the current reports on how. Then they added the current reports on how most of the city and people have turned on each other, and only a couple neighborhoods have banded together and are somewhat safe. Then they reported on Flagstaff, the power failure, the El Tigres gang attack at the motorsports business and their elimination, and how the members that weren't in on the attack and the other gangs trying to consolidate their position of power and their elimination. The mayor and city council and a city council member making a deal with the El Tigre gang, their arrest and public execution. Some neighborhoods are trying to pull together and securing their supplies and homes, while other areas are turning into war zones. Benjamin stood up and added he did rescue a treasure, that they did rescue a treasure. This is our new foster daughter, Kimberly Dennis. Her parents died 5 years ago, and her grandparents asked us to look after her until it's safe for her to return to them when they found out that Juby Chan and Super Scout were here. She goes by Kimmy so we don't get confused. Suddenly another window opened up on the screen with only the president showing. The president, I want to change it, in it. And showing, SHOW, showing that he was in a Spartan living room. Kimmy, my heart goes out to you and all others who have and will lose their parents. You're among the luckiest that you have been taken in by Super Scout's parents. We are doing everything we can to make it safe enough for you to go back to your grandparents. Unfortunately, this disaster was far worse than anything we planned for, so it's going to take some time. I understand, Mr. President. She took a breath. I'm using my time here to train with Juby Chan and Super Scout, but they're kind of crazy. But I'm crazy too, I guess, because I like it. If my eldest daughter ever gets her guy to propose, I'm sending them there to learn how to be great parents from the Clarks. Dad, came a shout from off camera. Well, I better go and make peace. He smiled broadly and disappeared. Mr. President, if you're still listening, you may want to wait on making peace. President Lepetame reappeared with a woman in her early 20s kneeling on the couch facing him, but turning her gaze to the camera. The woman looked shocked at the screen. Excuse me, and she started to leave. Stay, Kimberly said loudly, then softer. This concerns you too. Wide-eyed, she stopped. Okay, Captain Kimberly Jackson. The woman's mouth worked up and down, but nothing came out as she stared at the screen and slid down to sit next to her father. Kimberly Jackson, a younger female voice shouted loudly. Juby Chan! And suddenly a 13-year-old came flying into view as she landed next to the president on the other side. Dad, you never said you knew Juby Chan? A smile that showed her molars spread across her face. Now you're cool. The president chuckled, as did most of the adults. Kimberly started to speak when a 15 or 16-year-old boy walked over to the couch and sat down next to the younger girl. Kimberly sighed. I must apologize, Mr. President. I totally spaced out and forgot that you're a family man, too. I, too, forget that my staff has families, President Lepetame replied. Taking a BREA. Taking a deep breath, Kimberly spoke. Today we defeated 2 chapters of Heaven's Devil, rescued 23, and reclaimed 3 short-term members. What? Several of those on the call exclaimed. I'll explain, Kimberly replied. From the Stockton chapter, we rescued 5 teenage girls that were being abused. From the Fresno chapter, we rescued 21, including a male community outreach volunteer that was given the choice to join Heaven's Devils or die, and 2 other males that had joined before word of the asteroid leaked out, and both of who wanted out once they found out what. Hang on, I need to. I'll just leave it. Found out about their plans. Robert Wiz Tolman, he stood up, was in the gang for 2 years and was a mechanic, and that's all he did. The chapter president didn't care that Robert didn't join in on their less than legal activities because Wiz kept all of their motorcycles in perfect condition. But 10 days ago, a couple of the other members said he needed to prove his manhood, and they gave him Alice Krager, age 17. Alice stood up and said he would have to make a woman of her. Kimberly turned to Alice. Alice, would you tell what happened to you once you were taken by the Heaven's Devils? 10 days ago, some friends and I were attacked and taken by Heaven's Devils. Most of us were separated and sold to other chapters. I was kept by the Fresno chapter. I was the luckiest one in that I was given to Wiz. I was a virgin when I was given to him, and I stayed at his mobile machine shop to his little room and coached me how to sound like I was being taken. That is where I stayed except when we ate and when I had to relieve myself. He protected me from others. No, he protected me from other Heaven's Devils. One of the chapter leaders didn't want me riding in the cab with Wiz or in the back alone, so we rode his motorcycle and someone else drove the truck. When we got close to here, Juby Chen led the attack on the motorcycles and SUVs at the back of the convoy. She took Wiz to the interrogators to verify her story. And what of your friends? Kimberly asked. One was rescued, 2 went over to the dark side full-heartedly and joined Heaven's Devils, and even killed some other people just to prove they were joining for real. Lucy Byer is 16. Lucy, will you tell your story? Lucy took a deep breath and blew it out. 6 of us, 3 boys and 3 girls, were checking out some damaged buildings looking for food and water or anything else we could use when we were attacked by Heaven's Devils. She took a breath and blew it out. I won't go into detail what they did to us, especially the guys. Just think Sodom and Gomorrah. They killed the guys late the next day. Lucy started to cry and sat down. Daddy, can you bring Juby Chen here to protect us? Sandra Lepedemain asked. It's more important that I stay here, Kimberly interjected. But why? Sorry. Control C. Sandra asked, confused. How many Heaven's Devils have you seen there? None yet. We've eliminated over 2,000 here so far, Kimberly said, causing Sandra to draw a quick breath. And Juby Chen has killed over 400 by herself, more than half with her katana, Michael added. Wow. Sandra said. And there are 3,500 more coming. Commander Smythe's voice rang out from the side door. The sharp impacts of her boots echoed throughout the maintenance bay. We were overly successful beyond measure today, Mr. President. She walked towards the front with pain and misery right behind her, carrying a large folded up tarp. When she got to the front, she walked along the front edge of the first row of tables and stopped in the center of the row. Pain and misery walked in front of her and began opening the tarp. Good evening, Mr. Vice President, Senator Mitchell, Generals, Arsac Davies, and those listening in. We have answers to the missing Heaven's Devils from the Crystal Lake compound collapse. As you recall, 750 were making their way to Canada. 1,500 were known to be in Las Vegas area at the time of the monsoon and earthquake. And earthquake. The 1,500 were known to be in Las Vegas at the time of the earthquake, lost about 300 members. The rest supposedly were headed to the North Rim via another route. We hope that when the Hoover Dam failed, those missing were caught in the floodwaters. I'm guessing that did not happen, the president stated. No, Mr. President. 750 that were unaccounted for on the 29th have reported in to members of the national chapter, and they're headed to Canada as well. At first, they were headed here, but we're slow getting here, and were turned around by the floodwaters and decided to go to Canada. They left Laughlin, Nevada, and traveled to Baker, California, then to Battle Mountain, Nevada, then Winnemucca, Nevada, then Burns, Oregon, and are now at the town of John Day using the Grant County Fairgrounds to stay while they make repairs. That puts them 210 miles due west of Council via Oxbow and Baker City. Plague, pestilence, and famine led a hooded and bound person to the front of the tables and made him kneel on the tarp. Then they took the hood off, and he blinked against the light. I hate it when it does that. I'm not sure if it deletes stuff or not when it flickers like. This is the president of the National Chapter of Heaven's Devils, Nathan Hemlock, Commander Smythe explained. He has been a fountain of youth, and his cohorts have been verifying most of it. A couple items they have been en masse contradicting. She stepped forward next to him, grabbed a handful of hair, and twisted his head around so he was looking up into her masked face. Mr. Hemlock, do we have to put you back on the table, or are you going to tell the truth? Or perhaps I should just give her a call. She held up an antler horn. He tried to shout through the duct tape and struggled to get free of Nora's grasp. Suddenly, another biker came flying through the air and landed with a sickening thud on the outstretched tarp. He, too, had a hood covering his head. Then the sound of heavy boots striking the concrete sounded, and a black-clad headless figure stepped into the light. It marched over to the new biker, leaned down, grabbed a handful of hair that was protruding from under the hood, and yanked upward, dragging him to his feet, and walked him forward until he was near the middle of the tarp. Then the headless figure pulled down on the hair, driving the biker to his knees. When he let go of the hair, he made a loud guttural sound and patted the biker on the head. The headless figure was starting to turn towards Nora, Commander Smythe, and Nathan Hemlock when it became aware of the projection screen and twisted its torso to look back at the screen slightly as a person with a stiff neck would do to see the top of the screen. After a couple seconds, it gave a dismissive wave to the screen and turned towards Nora. It walked over to her and bent over as if to look at Nathan Hemlock. It freed the silver-colored vertebrae whip from its bag and shoved it in Hemlock's face. Hemlock looked up at the headless figure, eyes wide. Let me fix this. Then Then the headless figure reached across Hemlock's face and with its other hand grabbed hold of the duct tape and a fair amount of facial hair. With a quick movement, it removed the tape from and hair from Hemlock's face, resulting in a guttural pain with a grunt of pain from Hemlock. Dropping the tape and hair in front of Hemlock, it moved back to the biker it had thrown on the tarp and stood several feet behind it. Now, Mr. Hemlock, are you ready to amend your statements? Commander Smythe asked in her British accent. Nodded weakly, he answered yes. Then he looked up and saw who was on the projection screen and smiled. These renegades have violated my civil rights and the civil rights of my club members. I demand you order them to release me and my club members immediately, he smirked. Another window opened up, and the Secretary of Homeland Security appeared. Mr. President, if I may. Of course, William. On October 22nd, by order of the President of the United States of America, Presidential Security Directive AR-001, martial law has been enacted, and all those engaged in or threaten to engage in acts of undermining the stability of the country, i.e., all murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, and robbers, are to be shot on sight. All other criminals are to be held and tried within 12 hours by in-place local, state, or federal authorities. If none are available, the area SAC has the authority to act as judge. On October 26, by order of the President of the United States of America, Presidential Security Directive AR-002, an update to Presidential Security Directive 001, has been enacted. All those engaged with acts that undermine stability of the country, any state, county, or community, i.e., gives aid or makes deals with any and all murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, robbers, are guilty as such murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, and robbers, and are to be arrested, tried within 12 hours of in-place local, state, or federal authorities. If none available, the area SAC has the authority to act as judge. Military officers with the rank of general can convene a military court of 3 to 7 officers to act as a panel of judges. On November 1st, the President of the United States issued Presidential Security Directive AR-003, which states members of the motorcycle club / gang known as Heaven's Devils are no longer citizens of the United States of America and have no rights to due process. Furthermore, they are to be considered enemy combatants and treated as such. In addition, the Geneva Convention does not apply to them. They are to be killed on sight unless there is the need and likelihood that needed information can be extracted from them. The United States military are to aid all local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies in exterminating Heaven's Devils from American soil. This directive has been approved by Congress and upheld by the Supreme Court. We got someone else, some more in here. Hey guys, gals, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up and make a comment. Say hi to somebody in the side chat. On October 31st, Walt Rogers resigned as Sheriff of Adams County, Idaho, to accept the position of Chief Marshal of the newly reorganized Federal Marshals. Also, after the wedding, Lightning Death has accepted the position of Deputy Federal Marshal, and their mandate to it is their mandate to hunt down and eliminate all members of Heaven's Devils. The President, along with the leadership of the U.S. Marine Corps, has also tasked Juby Chen, the Ninja Girl, and Archer the Super Scout, a.k.a. Captains Jackson and Moore, to create the 3rd FORCON Special Operations Group, the Reapers, to do likewise with the same mandate. All of them have been granted preemptive presidential pardons for any acts they deem necessary to complete this task. Oh, and Eleanor, thank you for all you and your team have done and are still doing. So, Mr. Hemlock, you and your gang have no rights at all in any way, shape, or stretch of your imagination. You can't do this. We have rights. Before anyone could respond to him, a very screechy and loud violin began playing the first Chopin's funeral dirge. No! Keep her away from me, Hemlock screamed as he looked around in panic. You have to keep her away from me. A loud, screechy, girlish cackle erupted from the back of the bay, making everyone wince in discomfort. Earplugs, everyone. Earplugs, everyone. Specialists, make sure the sound buffers are engaged for those on the screen. Buffer is engaged and working. We have a buffer set at 75 decibels, so she won't blow out your speakers, Nora said as she put earplugs in. Who are you talking about? Secretary Daniels asked. Before Nora could answer, a very loud and very bad rendition of some unknown Gaelic tune started playing on an out-of-tune violin. Keep her away, I'll tell you the truth. Just keep her away from me. Hemlock's panic leaped into high gear as he frantically looked around for some unseen nemesis. Just then, the Banshee guided past the headless figure and grabbed the hood off the head of the other biker, revealing it to be Richie Charles. All the while, she continued playing on an invisible violin with her other hand. As she went by Nathan Hemlock, she threw Richie's mask in his face. When she got to the end of the first row of the table, she stopped her forward movement with a long, lingering note, and then began to play the music and moved back. Sorry. Yeah. Play the music. Sorry. I need to I'm going to change this around a little bit to get the full. Sorry. As also moved backwards. Hang on. All right. As she also moved backwards as if drawn by some invisible hand. As she passed by Hemlock, she pirouetted and struck out with her bow hand with her bow hand, and though her hand never touched him, a bloody lash appeared on his face. Her strike concurred in time with a slight pause in the music, which started again when she drew her unseen bow across the invisible violin she held. Now facing the direction of her travel, the Banshee proceeded to Richie and encircled him 3 times before stopping and looking him intently in the eyes for several seconds before she struck out at him as well. Just as when she struck at Hemlock with the invisible bow, the music paused and a bloody lash mark appeared on Richie's face. She began to slowly float away from Richie with a haunting, girlish giggle, and then gracefully turned away from him. She guided on, moving past the camera when she suddenly stopped. When she stopped, the music abruptly stopped as well. The Banshee slowly guided back to the camera and looked intently at it. This was the first time those at the other locations got a good look at her face. Her extremely pale skin was offset by trickles of bright blood flowing from her eyes, nostrils, and the corners of her mouth. This image was framed by her deep orangish red hair that was wild and untamed, with twists and knots of one who'd been in a windstorm. She stared at the camera and then at the screen, then back at the camera, as if this was the first time she'd seen one, or possibly seen herself, because there was a window on the screen that showed those in the room, as well as that showed those in the room as well. Sorry, this is something that doesn't. Sorry, those in the room as well, and her face. Sorry, I'm just trying to stare at the camera. As well as her face, which filled most of the image. After several seconds, the banshee turned and faced Michael. She pointed to the window that the president was in, held up two fingers. Then she held her hand out to sorry, I got to held her hand out held her other hand out to the to hang on here. Okay, there we go. And I go in there to the screen like she was putting it on the heads of the children, and they made a scoot or shoe, then made to shoot or shoo them away. Okay, all right. It's 3 hours. I'm going to stop here. We're going to pick up with the rest of the meeting here tomorrow. And going to put that there. There we go. So we're going to pick up with this tomorrow. And things are only going to get more interesting here tomorrow, because there's some intense stuff about ready to happen. All right, so hang on a second. Let me bring this down to here. Okay. All right, so today's Friday. So tonight on Camp Patton Family Compound at 8 p.m. Eastern, the topic is, I'm having a brain fart here. Let me look it up here real quick. The topic tonight is, oh yeah, Friday the 13th. Let's do it again. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of open chat stuff. We're going to talk about some other things that I have an idea for that we're going to go over tonight. But it's going to be kind of an open chat about what you guys want to talk about. Then tomorrow morning we will pick up, where we ended today at 10 a.m. Then at 2 p.m. I'll be going live with Shadow Scout Swede, UK Urban Prepper, the Sofa Survivalist, and others. For the topic tomorrow is hang on. It's similar to what I just did a couple last week. It is putting together, or let's see, get down here to it. How to build a prepper community. So that's the topic that we're doing with Shadow Scout Swede. Then tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have it could be a very touchy subject as far as the platform is concerned. The topic is, can you survive an active shooter event? And I'm going to be using some of the training I gave from when I worked at Homeland Security on it. In fact, I have some of the videos pulled up for it, and we will go over that. Every morning, different times. So Sunday morning will also be at 10 p.m. We'll continue on with the editing. Monday through Saturday, it'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern for 3 hours. And then we'll have the live stream. Monday is outdoor canning, challenges and solutions. Tactical Tuesday is blackout rules. Yeah, blackout rules. So basically, when there's a blackout, the rules you need to follow for light discipline. So so nobody comes and say, "Oh, they got power" or whatever, and tries to get into your house to find out, get your generator or whatever. Thursday night is the midnight ride, and that'll bring us up to this point next. Great, froze there for a second. All right, with that, we're going to call it a wrap for this morning. And so, stay happy, stay safe, keep adding to your preps, and we'll see you later this evening on Camp Patton Family Compound.